So, Yu-Gi-Oh Speed Duels just ended. Yes, in case you guys didn't know, Konami just recently released Speed Duel Battle City Finals, a box Speed Duel product that is the last of its kind, the last Speed Duel product that we're gonna get in the TCG for the foreseeable future. And so it kind of made me think, I want to make a video talking about this really fun and interesting alternative Yu-Gi-Oh format, where it kind of went wrong, what the missteps were, but also the things that it did really well and stuff that I really liked about Speed Duel, because I had a really fun time playing it. And I think a lot of people just didn't really know what it was for a variety of reasons, or just weren't super interested in it. But now that it's sort of officially ending, I think this would be a good time to just wrap up all of my thoughts on it and hear what other people have to say, and maybe talk about what the future of Speed Duel could look like. So yeah, strap in. This is gonna be one of my sort of stream of consciousness videos, but if you like me talking about Yu-Gi-Oh at length for a very long time, then a thumbs up on the video is always really well appreciated. So what exactly is Speed Duel? It's basically an alternative Yu-Gi-Oh format that is sort of a powered down, low scale, fast version of Yu-Gi-Oh. The idea is that you have a shrunken field, so there are only 4,000 life points, your deck size is 20 to 30 cards, and you've only got 3 monster card zones and 3 spell and trap card zones. Also, the extra deck and the side deck are smaller as well. You only start with 4 cards instead of 5. And there's not a main phase 2, interestingly enough, kind of similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links in that way. And speaking of Duel Links, Speed Duel, even though it launched in early 2019, there were already like different traces of it in the game beforehand. Obviously, like I said, Duel Links kind of had this Speed Duel rule set for a while now, and that launched in like 2016. But there were also things like the dual terminal machines that you might have found at locals that sort of played by a similar rule set where you only had like 3 monsters, 3 spell and trap cards. But yeah, the products themselves came out in early 2019. And so with Speed Duel, they also incorporated the skill cards that you would find in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. And this is probably the biggest difference from the main game. There are a lot of different skill cards that you can use that are based on anime characters. I've got a large one in the background for you guys to see. It's Yugi's Destiny draw card. By the way, if you have any more oversized Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel cards, get in contact with me. I would love to get them from you. But anyway, yeah, so smaller duel fields and skill cards. That's basically the defining parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel. And so the core appeal of Speed Duel would be that it's kind of a more casual, fun, anime-focused format where you could get in games quickly, like get in, get out. The strategies are simple, the duels end fast. Not like fast like how modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels go fast, where it's like one person just solitaires for 10 minutes. It's just like, it's back and forth, but the duel might only last like 4 or 5 turns. Anyway though, Speed Duel launched with 2 starter decks. There was Speed Duel Destiny Duelists, which was Yugi, Ishizu, and Pegasus's decks all in one. And then Speed Duel Duelists of Tomorrow, which was Mai, Kaiba, and Joey. And this was really cool. It meant that getting into Speed Duel was pretty simple. There were like 6 different decks that you could play right off the bat, and I think that was a great start. I also liked that they packaged them together in these starter decks. So like buying one starter deck gave you literally 3 different decks to pick from on either end of the spectrum. So it's great for like kind of getting your friends into it. And then shortly after, they launched the first Speed Duel booster pack, which was Arena of Lost Souls. We'll talk a little bit more about these booster packs in a minute, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Did have the same sort of booster pack system that you would see in the normal TCG. So at the start, Speed Duel's got skill cards, it's got a smaller rule set, and there's a lot of things that you can buy. However, it's important to make a big distinction about Speed Duel that I think was where the first problems kind of came in. And that's with the Speed Duel watermark. So all Speed Duel cards have a Speed Duel sort of watermark on the text box effect section of the card. And that's what you need to have in order to play it in Speed Duel tournaments. So for instance, if I have a copy of Mystical Space Typhoon, but it does not have the Speed Duel watermark, then I can't play it in my Speed Duel deck. At least in like official tournaments. Obviously, if I'm like playing at a house with my friends, no one's gonna come and, attack me for it. But yeah, so the issue here is Speed Duel had a lot of older cards in it for the most part because it was a lower power format. And that meant that if you wanted to play an old copy of Dust Tornado or Mystical Space Typhoon, or one example was like Sphere Karibo, that was a really good early like Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel card, you had to pull it from a pack or get it from a starter deck, and you couldn't use your existing copies. And this turned a lot of people off because you're sort of being sold back like these old school cards that in the TCG today have no real like monetary value or anything, but yeah, you just couldn't use them in Speed Duel. Now, I get why they did this. This was probably just meant to make it easier for like judges at events, because like if I was using a copy of Dust Tornado that is a Speed Duel legal card, but I don't have the Speed Duel version, and a judge gets called and they're not completely intimately familiar with the Speed Duel card pool, then this is a quick and easy way for them to just verify that I'm like using all Speed Duel legal stuff. But still, it means you are just having to kind of re-pull old cards again. And re-pull gets me a little bit into the next issue, which was the booster pack system that Speed Duel used for the first several months. So Speed Duel Arena of Lost Souls was the first booster pack. They also later made 2 more. There was Duelists from the Deep and also Scars of Battle, which featured like Kaiba and Joey respectively. These were sort of similar booster packs to the TCG. They came out about every 2 months instead of every 3 months. And the set sizes were obviously smaller. There were about 45 like regular cards, and they'd have 5 new skill cards. I looked forward to getting these packs. I played this a lot with Alec and Alex. We just loved playing it ourselves and looking forward to the new cards in it. It used a rarity distribution that was sort of similar to mainline sets. There were commons, there were super rares, and there were ultra rares. And unfortunately, a lot of the best cards were locked behind ultra rare. And so it did mean that you had to buy booster packs of this and pull these cards. And that was kind of a tough sell because Speed Duel didn't really take off a whole bunch. Like, not a lot of people were playing it, and so if you didn't have kind of like a big Speed Duel scene at your local game store, then it's a tough sell asking you to buy these booster packs and try to pull these cards. Yes, the booster packs were cheaper than regular packs because I think you only got like 5 cards per pack, and the set size is smaller. I think they only cost maybe $1.99 or $2.99. But still, it's, you're kind of asking people to invest in this format that's just old cards. And again, that's a real sort of problem, and that was like a big stumbling point for Speed Duel. Now, I will point out one thing that I liked about the design of Speed Duel and kind of its lower power level cards was that there was a lot of creativity in it, and strategies got to evolve pretty quickly as like the sets came out. So a deck that I made and really enjoyed was playing with an Apprentice Magician, sort of mini Magicians I called it, deck. There was like Apprentice Magician and cards like Crystal Seer, Dark Red Enchanter came out. All these cards that got spell counters and were like little flip effect magicians. I think Old Vindictive Magician eventually came out. And this was a really fun deck for me, and even though it was sort of vaguely like Yu-Gi based, it was something that I just played because I liked. And then I used Jar of Avarice when that came out to kind of recycle all my magicians back into my deck. And so it was a deck that could kind of like just play this extended control game. But meanwhile, I remember Alec played a really cool like equip spell deck. It used, what was it, like old blacksmith Koichi or whatever, where like he flips and searches for an equip spell, and you could use things like the Guilford cards that used equip spells. It was like a fun sort of Joey strategy just right off the bat. And what was neat about Speed Duels was that we got to see a lot of older cards that were like basic removal suddenly be seen as quite good. So on the spell and trap front, for instance, you had these cards like Twister, which is just, it's a quick play kind of nerfed MST that can only destroy face-up cards, and you have to pay 500 life points, which actually is a lot in Speed Duel because you only have 4,000. But that was like the only spell and trap removal that existed at the start, was playing Twister. And so if your opponent was like using spell and trap cards, you had to have some kind of way to get rid of them. There was not an MST. There obviously wasn't like a Heavy Storm or a Twin Twisters to get rid of cards. And then later we got Dust Tornado, which is sort of an evolution of Twister. It's a little bit better because it can destroy anything, but it's also a little bit slower. And I like to see those sort of small, minute changes in card balancing. And then eventually like we got Night Beam, which was cool. And then much further down the line, Cosmic Cyclone. So yeah, that was really neat. It was also cool to just see like how Speed Duel did not have easy removal like Smashing Ground. You usually had to use somewhat slower removal cards like Michizuri and things like that to get rid of monsters. So I always thought that was really neat. They continued with the booster pack sort of formula for a little while, but I think they very quickly learned it just didn't work out well. Those packs would oftentimes just be like on Walmart store shelves and just end up getting repackaged into those off-brand mystery boxes or whatever. So they did make more Speed Duel starter decks. I remember that they made a Rex and Weevil based starter deck, which was neat. They made some starter decks that featured Merrick, I think, and Bakura as well. And I feel like the starter deck sort of model was better than the pack model because these were sealed things where you could just buy them and like quickly get the cards just as a guarantee. It avoids that problem of having to pull stuff for a kind of low power alt format that you don't really care a whole bunch about. Instead, you can just get like a sealed product and maybe buy a couple of copies if you need to, and you're good. Also, skill cards. I want to talk a little bit more about those. So skill cards, it's something that debuted in Duel Links, so most people already kind of knew what they were, but they were really interesting because they would sometimes let you do like a single one-time fusion summon, which is something that maybe your deck can't do, or skill cards would allow you to make better use of boss monsters that were a little too like awkward and clunky to use regularly in the game, even in a low power format. So like some recent examples are like if you want to use the Egyptian God cards in this newest Battle City Finals set, then the skill cards actually let you search for your Egyptian God card and then just put a card at the bottom of your deck. And usually that was kind of the cost of like skill cards. You could either maybe use them once a duel, or you had to discard a card to use them. And that meant a lot because in Speed Duel, advantage isn't like super plentiful. So having to discard a card or put something at the bottom of your deck like actually matters. However, speaking of Duel Links, that is another sort of issue that Speed Duel ran into was the obvious comparisons to Duel Links. For a lot of players, if you told them about Speed Duel or asked them to try it out, their immediate response would be, or at least this one that I heard a lot, was like, okay, why wouldn't I just play Duel Links? Because it's on my phone, it's digital, it's faster, it's easier. Why would I like get these physical cards when the Duel Links format already exists? And unfortunately, that is a very valid criticism. Why wouldn't you just play Duel Links? Duel Links was much further ahead than Speed Duels and eventually ended up kind of diverging into something a little closer to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's actually a part of Speed Duel that I like, is that it basically ended with just the Duel Monsters and the GX era cards and never really got further than that. It never introduced Synchro Monsters or Xyz Monsters or Pendulums, Links, anything like that. So it kept it pretty grounded, and I think that that was like a fun appeal to it. One last thing I think that's super relevant here too is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel exists in the OCG, and that's something that a lot of people really wanted to come over to the West, like releasing a physical English version of Rush Duel. We so far have not gotten that, and it doesn't look like it's something that we're going to be getting very soon because they added Rush Duel as like a feature in Duel Links, but I think to me that was them playing it safe and seeing how like the interest for it was. I don't know if it was like super successful in that regard, but I don't think that we're gonna really be getting paper Rush Duel, but I think that just the fact that that was a thing people wanted made them actually view Speed Duel with maybe even more animosity because it felt like Speed Duel, its existence is preventing us from getting Rush Duel. Now, I don't believe that it was as like one-to-one and black and white as that. I think there's a lot more involved with getting like Rush Duel licensing and all of that stuff sorted out. And that would mean like launching kind of a completely different game, and Konami might have not wanted to do that. But still, it just left a sour taste in people's mouths, so there's that. There were also some like missteps format-wise, like just card game balance-wise with Speed Duel as well. I remember Speed Duel having some really overpowered skills with like Weevil's eradicating aerosol was like a really big way to nerf the, like just get rid of your opponent's board. So eradicating aerosol just destroyed like all insect type monsters, and then like Weevil had a skill that made all your opponent's monsters be insects, and so you could kind of use these to have just sort of a Raigeki Dark Hole instantly skill, which in Speed Duels was very strong. I also remember Rex's Serpent Knight Dragon like skill was really strong and had like 4 different effects. If you had Serpent Knight Dragon on the field, like you could draw cards, pop stuff, like all in one effect. That was really cool. Also, stall decks were a bit of an issue in Speed Duels for a while because Speed Duel got cards like Zoma the Spirit and I think Mask of the Accursed, as well as Nightmare Wheel. These were all really strong stall cards that like drained your opponent's life points over time. And again, you only had 4,000 life points. So if you just kind of had a little combination of these cards out, your opponent couldn't really do anything. They lost their life points. It was a bit of a sacky strategy. And so eventually Speed Duel did have to implement a Forbidden and Limited list. Its Forbidden and Limited list worked like Duel Links', which is to say that you kind of had like limit 1, limit 2, limit 3, which meant that like if a card is on limit 1, then you can only use 1 copy of cards that are in limit 1. So like let's say for instance, Book of Moon and Mystical Space Typhoon are both limit 1 cards. You can use 1 Mystical Space Typhoon or you can use 1 Book of Moon. Now with limit 2, it's kind of the same thing, which means like, let's say that Mystical Space Typhoon and Book of Moon are both at limit 2. I could use 2 Book of Moons and no MST, or I could use 2 MST and no Book of Moons, or I could use 1 of each, but I can't use more than a total of 2 of them. Same for limit 3. Hopefully that explanation made some sense, but somebody can probably explain it better in the comments. It's a really cool and interesting approach to a ban list, although it's one that I think only really works when the card pool is small enough for people to keep track of. Duel Links has obviously done well with it because it's digital, so it's easy to enforce. I think for Speed Duel, it's kind of the same thing. As Speed Duel got more and more of those generic kind of staple-y cards that were from like kind of the GOAT era, like your Breaker the Magical Warriors, your DD Warrior Lady type cards, the really good like enemy controller Book of Moon type of cards. Yeah, a lot of those ended up on like the limit 1, limit 2 lists because they are really strong, and I think that they didn't want people to just be able to play a deck that's got like 3 of each of the best cards. It's like a good stuff pile. Yeah. So they used that to also nerf a lot of the stall cards, and over time they did update this Forbidden and Limited list for Speed Duel. So that was good. It meant that Konami did have some care for the format. They were paying attention. And speaking of like the competitive version of this format, this was played as a public event at like YCSs and stuff. So you go to YCS and there were like Speed Duel public events. That's how you could win these like oversized Speed Duel like giant cards, like the skills and other things like that. It was pretty fun, and I remember playing at a Speed Duel side event and at least 1 or 2 YCSs that I went to, and that was cool. I didn't even know for a long time, but they did do Speed Duel tournament packs, sort of similar to the OTS packs that you would expect to see in the TCG normally. Now, the issue with this was that most locals did not really host Speed Duel regularly. Only a few did, and I remember it not really being like something that got a lot of numbers. But if your locals did have Speed Duel OTS packs, that was like a cool way to get foil versions of cards like Relinquished. I remember like Relinquished was a common in Pegasus's deck, but you could also get like a super and ultra rare version of Relinquished, Dark Magician Girl, some of the other just prominent cards in Speed Duels. So I thought that was neat. There were actually 7, I believe, 7 different OTS like Speed Duel packs. So they continued this all the way up to like earlier this year was the most recent one. And the last major type of Speed Duel product, and this is where I really think that the format hit its stride, was with the box sets. So I think the very first one was a Speed Duel Battle City box, and they made several more from there. It was basically this like box that's like completely sealed and has like 8 decks worth of cards, like 20 card decks worth of cards, all built into it. And this is my favorite thing. It kind of turned Speed Duel into like more of a cube of sorts. It was something that you could sort of like draft with friends, and it would just represent a lot of different anime characters at once. And because like you could just buy this one thing for like 20 or 30 bucks and it had all the cards in it, it made it a lot easier to introduce Speed Duel to your friends. Because up till this point, I mostly, like I said, played Speed Duel with Alex and Alec, and we each kind of had a few different decks. They were fun for like squeezing a quick game in because it only took like 5, maybe 10 minutes max. Great for like, you just got a little bit of time to fill. But it was always hard to introduce it to more people. But when they introduced the Speed Duel like Battle City box and the other ones that they later made, it was great because it's like, okay, nobody has to have anything. The buy-in cost is really cheap, and you can even package it back up and like put it all back in the box and then play with it again later. So it really felt a lot more like a board game. Like I said, they made Speed Duel Battle City. They later made things like Speed Duel GX. Then they made like GX Midterm Paradox. They have made Streets of Battle City. They recently made Battle City Finals. The packaging on these got progressively smaller over time and like more compact because they really only needed to fit about 220 or so cards into it. So that was neat. One other thing I liked about Speed Duel 2 was that in these products, they would give you secret rare, like sort of variant promo cards. So there would be like maybe a pool of 20 to 30 cards that would come secret rare, and in your particular box, you'd only maybe get like 8 of them as secret rares. So it would kind of encourage you to maybe buy multiple copies of the box if you wanted to. Obviously you didn't have to, but it was cool because the Speed Duel secret rare cards always looked great. In fact, Speed Duel print quality as a whole was really, really good, like way better than normal TCG stuff. I think this is because Speed Duel was printed in Europe. Like I think Europe handled most of the Speed Duel product design and printing, and so the print quality in Europe is kind of known for being better than North America's TCG print quality. Just, I don't know, the secret rare effects and foiling was always good. The cardstock quality was really, like it was firm, it was really great. So I always liked having copies of Speed Duel cards because they just, you know, they looked better and they felt better, and that was really cool. And they also used this as an opportunity to sort of start reprinting a lot of GOAT era cards and Edison cards because they're the right power level for Speed Duel. So we got to see things like secret rare Dandelion and Fossil Dyna and like Enemy Controller, things like that. I always thought that was neat. Jinzo, Lava Golem, just a lot of old school cards that you could get secret rare. And it was already like, it was just an upgrade to what was already in the box. So like, if there was a character like Merrick or whatever who uses Lava Golem, it's going to be in the set as is, but then you can also get a secret rare one and like fill in your deck and stuff. And Spirit Reaper was a really good one, I remember. There were so many, it was fun. So that was the point where I had started doing a lot of Speed Duel house tournament videos. I think that we've done one with every single Speed Duel product that's launched. So if people want to go on the channel and watch that, you definitely can. They were a very fun time. And that's basically kind of the end of Speed Duel as it is, because on July 9th of this year of 2024, Konami, they made an announcement post where they were like, yeah, Speed Duels is done. This is the last Speed Duel product. They said that they felt like they were retreading old ground because they'd covered the Battle City and the Yu-Gi-Oh GX characters over and over at that point. And so that's where they announced that Battle City Finals, which just launched, would be the last Speed Duel product. to come out for the foreseeable future. And there was also a little bit of drama as well around Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duels in EU because they stopped getting Speed Duel products sooner than we did, which was it was kind of weird that they just wouldn't release certain Speed Duel stuff there. I don't know if there's like a printing facility issue. They never really gave much of an explanation. I know a lot of European Yu-Gi-Oh! Players were upset by this because they liked their Speed Duel and they wanted to get these cards, and Konami never really made like much of a statement as to why that was the case. But now there's just not going to be any more Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel stuff. So, where do we go from here? What's next for Speed Duel? Well, I mean, as far as I'm aware, they are still supporting it at the OTS level. So I think Konami is doing like a release celebration event for Speed Duel Battle City Finals with some exclusive mats that you can win. I actually got a couple of them. I'll show them on screen because they look incredible. They've got the 8 Battle City finalists. I don't know if they're going to be making any more OTS packs for Speed Duel, but I do know that they're going to be continuing to do it as a public event at YCS events if you go to those. And I still believe that just buying these Speed Duel boxes on the shelf at like a Walmart or a Target is still a really, really great idea. Alec, he's been collecting all the ones that we've played with so far, and he takes them home with him sometimes to play with like old friends from high school who like kind of used to like Yu-Gi-Oh! But are just completely disenchanted with the madness that is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, Speed Duel is a great sort of substitute for that. I like that it's anime based, so people can just sort of recognize a character they like and build a Speed Duel deck based on that character, use one of that character's skills, and just sort of like, go to town and play, and it's quick, and then you just pack it all back up and you're done. It can be a great evening with friends. Another cool thing about those boxes I forgot to mention is that they've actually got a lot of really fun alternative rules in them as well. So inside of all those boxes, they've got like this huge like fold out paper thing that explains the rules and everything. Things like 2v2 tag duels, rules where, you have to follow Battle City rules where it's like you can only summon one monster and use one spell or trap per turn, but you can use magic cards as if they're trap cards in your opponent's turn. There's even a Battle Royale, like 4-player, just sort of commander, I guess, format thing that's based off of the 4-way duel that Yugi, Joey, Merrick, and Kaiba had. We've wanted to try this out in a video for a while, although it's tough to set up like a top-down sort of perfect camera layout for that, but maybe we'll get around to it. And I think that this is fun because a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have wanted alternative Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats and low-power Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats, and Speed Duel has delivered on a lot of that stuff. It's just that most people don't know about it, and that's, I guess, the last major thing is like, Speed Duel, it didn't take off for a lot of reasons. It's too similar to Duel Links, and a lot of people said, well, I'll just rather play Duel Links. There was that whole Speed Duel watermark and needing to re-pull these old cards. I think a lot of people didn't really enjoy that. Some people just don't like sort of things that are too anime reminiscent, I've noticed. Like, I think people enjoy the new modern twist on Yu-Gi-Oh! Where archetypes kind of just exist on their own, like say like the Snake Eyes cards or Raziel cards. Like, people don't really want to play with Yugi's old, Joker Knight deck or Kaiba or a Shizu or whatever. But I do still feel like if you want something that's fun and you can just enjoy it with a group of very casual players, it is still worth it to pick up some of these Speed Duel boxes because it's some of the most fun I've ever had with Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's chill, it's relaxing. It's hard to be salty when you lose at Speed Duel because the games go pretty quick and you can always just try out another strategy next time. Like, it's not, super duper intense. There aren't hand traps. You're not really gonna find like these huge board breaker cards. You're not gonna have big boards of like Omni negates. All in all, I don't know. I've got a lot of nice things to say about Speed Duel. I know that it sort of fumbled and it seems like maybe Konami is just done with it for now. I get it. It was probably seeing diminishing returns. But still, the best thing I can say is like, give it a try yourself. Decide for yourself if you like Speed Duel. And let me know if you've had any good experiences competing in the format, if it's something that you want to give a shot to. Of course, we've done Speed Duel videos with all of the different box sets, so I will leave a playlist or a link to all of those as well if you want to watch them. Yeah, that's gonna be it. That's it for Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel. In the future, maybe Konami will revisit it. Maybe they'll give us 5Ds cards and Zexal cards. Personally, I'm kind of what and what with that. Like, I think it'd be fine if they did it, but I'm also okay with Speed Duel just being this snapshot finished format. It's got like DM and GX characters, and it's it. It's the retro thing. You can play Speed Duel. It's an alt format, and a lot of players do ask for these. So if you're one of those players, at least give it a try. All right, cool. I've gone on long enough. I want to hear what other people have to say about it, but that's going to be it for me. Fast turn.